Yo, 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 what is going on, CoD Familia? It is your boy BN, aka Mr. Kingdom Builder, and today we're going to be talking about some possible upcoming massive changes to Call of Dragons that were talked about / announced during the developer Q&A at the Meetup in Cologne, Germany on November 19th, so it was about 2 days ago now. They just posted, as of a day ago, either all the questions or a lot of questions that were asked there, along with the answers the developers gave. So we're going to go through these. We're going to read each one, and I'm going to give you my thoughts and my feedback on them. So here we go. And this is where you can find it, right? You join the CoD Discord, you go dev feedback, then you can click right here for Cologne meet and greet, and then you go dots, open in full view. That just makes it a little bit easier for us to view everything. So right to the top, here we go. Number one. Why is there long wait time after the Dragon until the beginning of the new season? Activity goes way down between seasons and we lose players. Answer, yes, we are aware of the concerns about the wait time between seasons. Some players have suggested that Season 1 should be shorter, and we've actually made a small adjustment before, shortening the season from 75 to 85 days to 70 to 75. So on the early side, lowering by 5, or on the earliest side by 5 days, on the longest side by 10 days, right? So if you're kind of taking that average, you're looking at about 7.5 days that they've lowered it by. We have also introduced the pet system recently, hoping that activities like catching and others around the system would fill that gap. But there were some minor issues that needed to be addressed, and we're actively working on them. We're also planning to introduce more activities at the end of the season in the future to enrich the game content and keep the excitement going. So my initial thought here is I do like the adjustment on lowering the at least a little bit for the length of the season. I actually like it right now at kind of that 70 to 75 day mark. However, my view is this, is that if you're going to lower it, like let's say you lower it to exactly 2 months, right? Like you're just saying, cool, let's just lower it. Bam. Let's go a solid 60 days. And that's just what it is. And then maybe you do. And again, you know me, I'm always going to add this in. If you added in something such as like a home kingdom, maybe you go to your home kingdom for 2 weeks and then that's it, right? Then you just go right back into KVK. Right now, I know I've usually said like a week or two I'm okay with for something like a home kingdom where you basically go back, you kind of reset, you re-energize, you reorganize, restructure your ranks. You get to see everyone who's actually in your kingdom, so you can fill some of those empty spots as well to fill activity potentially from other alliances. It's very difficult to do that when you don't really have a way of viewing everyone that's in your kingdom or seeing everyone, and sometimes leaderboards are not always going to be an accurate indication, even though, yes, I would love to see them add in home kingdom leaderboards, which I do believe they should do. It just doesn't solve everything in that case. So again, I like where they're at with this 70 to 75 day. I think that if they lower it anymore, to me, it almost feels like there has to be some give and take. There's got to be some type of compensation or some type of alternative to I guess balance is probably a better way to put it. So that's just my view. Then we get to the pet system portion. So I think the pet system is on paper an okay / goodish idea. I think the biggest challenge that most people are at right now, even though, yes, they have been making some improvements to the pet system, is that you just can't place skills where you want to. And I think that there is something here when you think about the kind of Pokemon-ish grindy approach to what pets were hoping to be, and I guess kind of are to an extent. However, and I'll just throw an example out here. Let's say instead of randomly assigning skills, you allow people to freely place skills where they want, but you make the grind mechanic for leveling up skills, right, maybe a little bit more. Maybe, for example, you have to go out and kill pets or capture pets, and you have to wait to try and find pets that have the same skill, and then you have to capture enough of them, right, where maybe it's, as an example, maybe you have to capture 5 or 10 pets to get the skill from 1 to 2, right? Maybe you have to capture 20 pets with that skill attached, regardless of the level, right? Or maybe if it's at a certain level, to give you like 2 points of experience versus 1 point of experience based on level. Just, again, thinking outside the box a little bit, but I'm sure you guys see where I'm going with that. In addition, I also think that there's going to be other events that they're going to come out with. I think when you look at the Behemoth raid, I think that's something that's kind of cool. I think it'd be awesome to see some more kind of on-field. Like I mentioned, the Titan Tula event I really loved with what they did in Infinity Kingdom. I think it's a great example of an event that really is meant to bring the kingdom together, multiple alliances, or all the players that are in a kingdom or a KVK together to fight for things, right? Objective-based fights or other types of raids that you can do that maybe just aren't as straight up as we're just going to fight this behemoth, right? So maybe it's like a two-part thing, right? I go back to my days of playing Conquer Live and Reloaded on Castle von Teddestein, for those of you who did that, right? If you ever played the objective, not the TDM version, right? They had this game mode where you basically had to hit three like little floor levers, right? So you had to basically go stand over these areas, and you had to activate each of these gates, if you will, in order, and then you'd be able to go in for the kill, right? And I always thought that was such an interesting approach, right? I'm probably aging a little bit here for my Clar homies out there, right? Of course, after Bad Fur Day, but and this was on the Xbox too as well. Played that competitive for a while. Anyways, let's move on. Number 2, can we improve scout building to make it less manual and more automatic? For example, turn it into more of a send scout that returns with rewards instead of discover, where everyone's scout building has basically almost 1 million notifications. Yes, we understand that too many notifications and red dots might be annoying sometimes, and actually we are working on optimizing and organizing all kinds of notification options, including exploration rewards. Our main goal here is to maintain effective reminders so players can get useful reminders without it being too excessive. So some changes regarding this might already come with the updates in the near future, maybe even 1.0.21, which is nice to hear. So listen, I'm all for quality of life optimizations, right? If that's something that they're working towards and they're thinking of, I love that approach because I'm very much big on quality of life. I think that is by far, in my opinion, right, the most important area and aspect to really focus on in these types of games, because it really directly reflects back to the day-to-day playing experience for individuals. Now, when it comes to having it be less manual and more automatic for scouting, I'm going to be honest, that's kind of the point of it, right? The idea is that you're trying to grind for 100%, right? I mean, I'm sure for all my GTA fans out there, right, there's how many pure grinders really enjoy getting 100% story mode, but more importantly, for those of you, probably getting the 100% on side missions and side stories and everything that you can do outside of the main storyline is probably more rewarding and more fulfilling. I view it, in my opinion, a similar way. I love the grind. As long as the grind has purpose, as long as the grind has an objective, and this does, you grind out there for rewards, that is probably the most free-to-play thing that you can have in a game with that type of concept and approach. And I wish we had more of that in Call of Dragons. So I love it, but I am for the notification improvement. Number 3. A lot of time and effort is put into alliances. What are some changes we can expect in the future, both in terms of general changes and end-of-season reset changes? So I actually do believe this is a really good question. I would have liked for it to be a little bit more tailored, where it was maybe a bit more specific towards something or the other, or even just gave an example. But I understand where they're going with it. So let's see what the response is. Yes, in games like Call of Dragons, alliances are very important, as they encourage teamwork, strategic collaboration, and foster a sense of community in the game. And we've recently received a ton of valuable feedback from both players and content creators on this. We truly appreciate it. To be honest, it's a bit challenging for us because Call of Dragons has a unique feature, the reset system, and aligning improvements to the alliance system with this core mechanic is quite challenging. We're taking careful steps to make sure we enhance the alliance system without disrupting this reset system. So for example, we've added affiliated region pre-selection in the latest update 1.0.20. So now if an alliance picks a region beforehand, they won't disband when a new season starts. We've also made other tweaks related to the alliance donations and gifts for a smoother experience. Just know that going ahead, we will monitor feedback about the alliance system and making more improvements if needed. So I'm going to give you a couple examples on what I think this player or this person may have been hinting at. And if not, I'm going to give you some outside-of-the-box ideas on things I would love to see added in. I'm not going to give you all BN secrets, daddy secrets here, but I'm going to give you a couple. Number 1, if they ended up having a custom polling announcement option where you could create your own custom poll. And I'll give you an example of what I mean. If I go in and I want to write a mail out to all my alliance members, I should be able to custom write in each of my answers for that poll, right? Maybe up to 20 or 30 characters, whatever it may be. And then also I should be able to set the custom time. So instead of having pre-selected times, let me set my own time, right? Just give us a limit. Let's say it's 48 hours is the longest time you can run a poll for, right? And let us set it to whatever we want. But maybe just have it go off of hour increments, right? Just to keep it easy. So you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. If it's 24 hours, and you can just say that's 1 day. If it's 48 hours, that's 2 days, right? But do hour increments. So let us set whatever time we want for a custom poll. Let us set the answers we want for a custom poll and allow for us to have maybe up to 6, as an example, up to 5 or 6 answers that we can give out to players. That would be fantastic. Let me give you idea number 2. If they had a read receipt to see how many players are reading announcements on top of showing officers and or the leader who is reading announcements. So every time an announcement goes out, let's say after 24 hours of that announcement going out, and just as an example, you can make this less than if you want to have it be real time as well. But let's say after, or you can do it in increments, maybe say every 6 hours. Right? Every 6 or 12 hours if you want, right? I'm just throwing some ideas out there. But whatever it is, you get a read receipt and it'll show you, or you can just click on the announcement. Maybe as an officer or a leader, you can click on the announcement, and as each person reads it, it updates in real time. And there's a button or something somewhere on the mail that only officers and or the leader can see, and then they can go in it and it'll show you, it'll be like a little eyeball or something next to people's names, and it'll tell you you've had 20 out of 150 people that have read this thus far, right? Maybe it's only been 40 minutes, and then you can go in and see who has read it, right? And reading it would mean you've opened it, and if there's scrolling that you have to do, you've scrolled all the way through, right? Basically where you've looked at the entire message. Regardless if they've read it or not, because obviously that isn't going to say accurately if they've read it, right? They could open it and scroll and then be done with it, but it'll at least give you a little bit more data into who's reading the announcements, because I think that is equally as important, right? So that's just idea number 2. Let me hit you with idea number 3. Idea number 3 is add a calendar. Adding a calendar in-game into your alliance where they can have a nice little big monthly overview, and they do this in Infinity Kingdom, which is a fantastic idea. And then what you do is you allow for officers and leaders and the leader to add calendar dates to this calendar. That could be anything from, this is when we're going to do a raid, this is when we're going to have a PvP community battle, this is when we're going to go and try to attack this behemoth, we're going to do this pass, we're going to do statue guardians, right? It's free-for-all. It's the free-for-all stage 5 for SLE, right? It's kill event. Maybe there's specific events that are coming up and you want to plan those out so people can see those for the week, right? And then when you do each listing, the way I love that Infinity Kingdom is they allowed for you to have a title, a description, a coordinate, if you wanted to post a coordinate for where it would be, and then the time that it would be at, and it also allowed for you to do a alert notification where you could send that out up to like a couple hours in advance, but it would allow for you to set that. So if you wanted to do it 5 minutes, 15, 30 minutes, 45 minutes, 60 minutes, and then every hour, to set that in advance so they would get an early notification. Things like that are great. Right? Maybe even allowing you to star certain things, right? If you want to call specific attention to really important events, right? You can do a star thing on the calendar. That's idea number 3. And the last one I'm going to hit you with, because I'm not going to give you everything, is number 4. Number 4 is I would love for them to add a section onto the Alliance page where you could add a Discord. So for example, what they could do is they could say, here's where you could put a Discord link. It would have to be at a preset thing, so it would have to say at minimum discord.gg/, and then it would just, and again, you could put it in, but on the back end, maybe they code it that way, so that way it has to be those initial characters, and then the players, even though they would probably type the whole thing out, or maybe they just type in their ending code, right? That would be awesome. And then it would allow for when people click on that alliance, they can go immediately to that Discord. And that can be publicly accessible when you click on the alliance page. So anyone can go to that alliance Discord. I think that's a way where you can really start engaging more with the community. And you could see a lot more outside of the game socialization that adding something like that can bring. And there are some other kingdom builders that have done this. That anime game, I'm forgetting what it was called. They had something like that. And There's a few others that I can't remember, but I know there have been others that have done this. So anyways, those are just 4 ideas. Let's move on. I'd love to know what you guys think on those 2 as well. Number 4, when does the migration open for all servers? And when will the migration pool be extended beyond servers playing the same seasons? The migration will be open at the end of each season, starting from the end of Season 2. As for cross-server immigration, we plan to open it after Season 3 or possibly even earlier. That's cool. So now, instead of you just being able to migrate between the kingdoms that are in your KVK group, you will now be able to migrate to any kingdom that is in the same season as you. So an example for this would be that if you're in Kingdoms 1, and I'll just give the most obvious one, if you're in Kingdoms 1 through 90, those kingdoms, I believe for the most part, should be lining up to be in the same seasons, right? Maybe even 91, maybe even up to 102. We'll have to see how those play out. But this is, and then you could even consider 155 through 173 as well, because they are the first group to go in to their KVK, KVK S2+, or Season S2+, we should say. So that's nice to hear that they're going to allow a little bit more movement, and it's not just going to be limited. I think that's going to open up some more possibilities, and we'll obviously have to see how that plays out. But I just want to point out, I love how they're at least willing to try it. And then, you know what? If it just ends up being bad after a couple seasons, then change it. No harm, no foul. Number 5, do you plan events that highly reward activity grind like the Marauder event in Rock pre-KVK? This is kind of a similar question that was asked earlier, right, when it came to this idea of the scouting thing, right, on the free-to-play grind side. We do have some plans for preseason events before the season starts, but the format will be different from what players have experienced in Rock. And again, I think this is an okay answer, right? They're acknowledging that they're looking into it, and I'll give you a short answer here. I'm just going to double down on what I said previously, which is that I really believe the game needs to be looking a little bit more at how to get more out of the free-to-play, the low spend, which is by implementing or adding things that are more grindy for rewards, because that is how you're going to foster your free-to-play community by, regardless if they can put in 16 hours a day or not, it doesn't matter. Giving them the opportunity to do that is all the difference. That's the hope you want to instill, is that you want to be able to have people go out and promote to your game to say, if you want, you can do things for up to 16 hours a day, and the majority of those things are grind heavy, and they will reward you, where if you keep up, you could probably keep up with, a light medium spender. Like, that's the selling point. Bear in mind, you're not going to get everyone that does it, but what you want to give people is the hope and the realization that they can progress and level a lot faster if they put the time in, which keeps them more on your game. I mean, think about what people say about like a YouTube algorithm or other platforms, right? Whether it's TikTok, Snapchat, Instagram, right? The idea is they want to try and keep you on their platform for as long as possible, consuming as much content as possible, watching as many ads as possible, right? And I'm not saying that in like some kind of a toxic way. I'm saying that that Call of Dragons and the dev team can do things like that to create fun, engaging, whether it's socializing in-game or not, but they can create more events and things that are more grind, time investment heavy, that are things that free-to-play can say, wow, this, if I play, even though, yeah, I'll probably never keep up with someone who's a heavy spender, but you know what? If I put in this amount of time, I can keep up with someone who's light to mid spend, right? Or maybe early, light to light mid spend, right? Whatever it may be. But I think that's something that these type of games have an amazing opportunity to really invest more in, and I hope they do. Okay, moving on. Number 6. Will there be any changes to the system to revert heroes to level 60, except for PvP? In the latest update, we've actually changed it so heroes can gain experience from defeating darklings and dark creatures after reaching level 50. Yeah, so basically what they've done is they reverted back to what the system was in the beginning, except they've kept the PvP options to get experience from there as well. So basically you can double dip experience gain from level 50. You can use stamina on the PvP side, command points on the PvE side. I do like this approach. I really do. As I'm thinking about it, I just hope that they don't lower this from 50 to 40 to allow PvP to gain experience just yet. Right? Now, I'm not saying I'm opposed to it at all, but I would like for them to leave it like this for a while to see what those gains look like over a period of time. Because and I say that because if they do lower it, then let's be honest, right? The people who are going to benefit the most from that are going to be the spenders, right? Because again, they already have, max legendary hero skills. and it's and probably have enough troops already, so they're out there with max hero skills, T5, max VIP, and they're just gaining PvP experience from that. I mean, they'll level up their heroes twice as fast, and then they'll be twice as early to being that much more potent right out on the battlefield. And again, that's not anything against them. I'm just saying take baby steps here, right? Leave it, monitor it, and then reassess. Okay. Number 7, what is the relationship between Nika and Nico? Nika and Nico are brother and sister. Nika is a bit older by a few minutes. Here's a twist. Nico, because of his sister, ended up with the fear of blood. That's the reason he quit assassination training. After Nika's younger brother, Nico, left his training, she started going for runs alone in the mountains. This is interesting. I wonder if that means maybe we'll see another hero, Nico, or something else, right? Because part of me feels like, why are you going to mention this person and then do nothing with it? We'll see. All right, what is the relationship between Nika? Oh, sorry, no, hang on, we just read that, sorry. Why not introduce a challenge like holding an arena for an extended period, say 24 hours, where the winner is the one who captures it, occupies it the longest? It seems like you're suggesting something similar to the Proving Grounds event, and we already have a feature like that in the game. So I think really what this person is hinting at, and I'm going to go back for all my Halo OG brethren here, is this person's talking about, or even like, so Halo King of the Hill, that's kind of what he's referring to, this person's referring to, or if you want to have something a little bit more updated, this would be like Call of Duty's Domination, right, as an example, where you're basically there to hold and occupy a point, and then you're gaining things. I want to point out that I actually really like these types of ideas, right? I like this kind of thing where it's like a capture the flag. I even think that could be something really cool, where it allows for different unit types to excel, but then other unit types to still be there in a supporting fashion. So like in something like capture the flag, Cav would probably be, your fastest option, right? And those might be some of your flag runners, but then you'll have other units that are kind of trying to set up defensive schemes. I mean, there's so much potential here when you think about objective-based events and gameplay that I really think there is some good opportunities that they can expand on, but it really just kind of comes into thinking outside of the box. And on top of that, I think that they can make it relatable to what you may encounter or see when you're actually in a PvP scenario in your KVK and in the open field, right? Or they can even create objective-based games or specific game type situations around live PvP situations that you would encounter. So that way it's a little bit more relatable. Very similar to how you might practice in a sport the way that you're going to play in the game, right? Or you'll do certain practices the way that you would try to play because you're trying to emulate a real game-like environment, as an example. But I love this. I hope we get some more, and I understand where they're going with this. So hopefully, I mean, again, if they added stuff in like that, I think it would be dope, because I think really what you want to do is, and don't get me wrong, I think mini games and things like that maybe have nothing to do with the open field or anything you're going to really have in kind of a real-time PvP environment, I think that's okay to add as well, but I would really love for them to add things that are going to be a little bit more of that real-time emulated environment for what you're going to actually get when you're fighting out in the game. Number 9. Will there be changes to the pet system skill slots, allowing users to choose which ones to remove and select empty slots for learning new skills? Additionally, is there a plan to implement talent slot lock to address this? We've heard your concerns about the pet system, and we do agree on this with our players, and we plan to optimize the random skill learning mechanism in version 1.0.21, allowing players to use skills in a more controllable way. Okay, listen, this may not have been just 100% overwhelming yes, but this is better than a no. Let's at least agree there. So I'm happy that, and this is one of the reasons why I will say this, right? Regardless of what, because again, I understand some people out there are giving or have, will say things about COD that, again, because it's either frustration or it's because, maybe they don't have things that you want. Patience is a virtue. If you have enough overwhelming support for something and you have a development team that is willing to listen and not just brush it aside, and understandably, there will be some things. We're not saying that as though, yes, they need to be a Jim Carrey yes man all day long. We're not saying that on the developer side. But if there is enough support for something, and it is not game-breaking or completely out of reason, I love the fact that there is at least an ability where, or at least the fact that the dev team is taking things into consideration and even saying, hey, we'll think about that, we'll discuss it, and then we'll figure out if it's something or not, right? Or then maybe it's a compromise, or maybe it's a full yes, or maybe sometimes it'll be a no. But I just want to point out that I really like this type of response that says, look, we understand it, we do agree, it makes sense, and I think there's other ways that you can do it. Remember, just because you may have to change something doesn't mean that you still can't compensate it and still end up going down the original intended path that you hoped for it, even if you might have to do some change-ups here and there, right? So again, this is a great answer. I'll be looking forward to that in the next update. Number 10, season resets are great for maintaining a healthy player base, but losing alliance progress seems like a big thing. Can we expect any changes or updates to address this? We won't be changing how alliance technologies reset for the time being, but we understand that keeping your alliance progress is very important. And we will work hard to minimize disruptions and ensure a smoother transition into the next season for alliances. So, this is the thing I'm going to say on alliance progress. If they're referring to alliance tech, I mean, I'm going to be real with you, pimpin'. I really like the fact that they reset alliance tech. Because one, the reason I like it is because I think that's a better alternative. I think it's a better solution than if you're already at max tech and then they just throw in some type of like pity maintenance donation thing, right? I think the fact that it almost requires your alliance to be as healthy and active as possible, to always try and be farther ahead or try to always get as far ahead as you can in your alliance tech development compared to other alliances. I personally like the fact that they reset alliance tech, and I hope it stays in the game. I hope that stays in the game. Of course, I like that they've at least adjusted the membership, because I think that really was the most important thing. But honestly, everything else when it comes to alliance progress, again, I love. For me, the biggest thing was let's just allow for the members to stay there, right? So they're not getting kicked out, which was, I think, just an overwhelming supportive far cry from the community. And it was awesome to see that they made that change. But again, for me, and that's just my opinion, I like it because I just think it stays in line with COD's authenticity on this front of them applying a reset system. And I think at times we'll have to understand that there is a adjustment, that COD is not Rock and Rock is not COD and COD is COD, right? And with that understanding, not trying to always turn everything into something else, I think there is and needs to be a level of originality. And I think COD has that. And again, I hope that they at least maintain that on this front and some of their other fronts as well. Okay. Let's get to the next one. 11. What are the next heroes for the next seasons? The upcoming heroes for the next season include an infantry hero and mage hero. Okay, their combat capabilities and skills are entirely different from the existing heroes, so stay tuned. Okay, excited, but you're bad for no previews. Number 12. A lot of people from my clan want to know if the pet skills are going to have a new and better system. Another question from my clan is if there is going to be a shiny version of the pets like in Pokemon. We've committed to continuously designing and developing more new pets, introducing them with each version update. At the same time, we mentioned earlier, we're aware that players' feedback system is a system, and they're planning optimizations for future updates. As for the shiny version of War Pets, it's an interesting idea. We might consider it. Who knows? You might see it in the future. Okay. Excuse me. Oh, Lord. Yeah, I mean, listen. I'll say this. Instead of shiny pets, how about pet skins? Did no one think of that idea? Because that's a great freaking idea. Number 13. Will there be new VIP levels? Yeah, we do not have future plans to introduce additional VIP levels, but that's something for the long run, not right now. And this is something that they've alluded to with the whole VIP16, because this is something that's been mentioned before. But I want to point out that I am happy that Call of Dragons is taking this kind of in-and-out burger, slow approach to expansion in certain areas of the game. So I am happy that they're not just immediately throwing VIP levels at you, because to me, that would be, I believe, a net negative, just in the wrong direction, because you would really be catering extremely to the spenders, and you'd also be extending the goalpost, moving the goalpost even farther away, and extending the gap even that much more from free-to-play versus spenders in that regard. So, and again, I'm not saying never introduce higher VIP levels, but I like that they're at least that they're cognizant of the pace of what it should be at, and so I appreciate that. And again, you got my respect on that one. Number 14. What are the plans for future events? We are actually actively working on it now. There will be more festive and daily events introduced in upcoming versions. This includes single-player mode events, alliance quizzes, plus we have plans on integrating AI technology to events to bring a richer gaming experience. Oh, this is cool! And this kind of goes to what we were talking about earlier, right? When people were saying about, oh, there's not a lot of things to do at the end of season. And again, you're hearing more opportunities, right? The way I view it is like this. If you're going to ask for something which is a shorter season, at least give them the opportunity. Like if this is the length of the full season, let me do my hands here. Length of the full season, but they only have events that are filling out half of the season, at least give them an opportunity to make more events to fill out the whole season. And then if it just feels like the season is still too long, then you can make another case, right? Where they could say, okay, now we'll reassess it again and see if maybe we need to shorten the season. But at least give them an opportunity to fill the glass all the way up, right? Before it kind of gets to that point, in my view. All right. Let me see. Now let's go to number 15. What are the future plans for Call of Dragons? This is such a broad, vague question, and it obviously has a big answer, so let's dive in. I'm super excited here. Firstly, we want to express our gratitude to all the players who have been a part of this journey with us. You're welcome. As we approach the end of our first year, one of the most frequently asked questions revolves around the future plans and direction of Call of Dragons. We are particularly thankful to players at this early stage, for their continuous feedback and support as we are shaping the future of the game together. While working hard on improving current game mechanics, our team is also dedicated to creating new content. Let us share some of the priorities in terms of new content. Oh, I'm so excited right now. I'm jittering. S3 development. We're actively working on Season 3, where players will explore a mysterious race living on a brand new map continent. The race will accompany players throughout Season 3. I'm excited. I also want to point out that I love the fact that they're always trying to design new maps for each of the main seasons, not the plus or the kind of 1.5 or 2.5, 3.5s. I love the fact that this is their approach, and I think it is one of the most refreshing things that I've seen from a Kingdom Builder as of late. So again, kudos there. New heroes. Simultaneously, we're in the midst of designing new heroes. These heroes will not only bring changes to combat styles and skill mechanisms, but will also introduce characters from the new race into the hero lineup. Okay, and that gets us into the next one. Fourth faction. Oh my gosh, just bring a new faction. Beyond the League of Order, Spring Wardens, and I thought Spring Wardens is one word. Is that not one word? And Wilderberg. We plan to introduce a fourth faction to the game. It could be the Dwarves or the mysterious race from S3. Currently, we are in the world building stage, and more details will be revealed in time. Honestly, if it was the Dwarves, your boy would not be mad at that. No siree. I would be okay with it. I would also be okay with a brand new faction that we don't have any hinting details at. Right, and it is interesting to think about, because on one end, you kind of have two opposing sides, right? One side, I'm sure, might just say, why not just leave the game with 3 heroes? It's totally fine. And it has been for this long. And I want to say that I think this is such a great approach for COD, where, again, for those of you, I'm a big In-N-Out burger guy, again, grew up on the West Coast, and I'll say the fact that COD is taking this slow-pacing approach to adding certain things in the game, as far as foundational pieces, which you would consider factions, I love the fact that it's taken them this long to consider adding a faction. The longer and the more desirable you make things, the more hype and passion and excitement can be generated from it. So to me, I think this is right on pace. Absolutely love it. Again, stick to this. That's the bread and butter. New events. Events will be a major focus in the near future. We have plans for a single mode breaking through event, Alliance Quiz, and the incorporation of... Oh, so they already mentioned that. In addition to catering to players who have been with us for some time, optimizing the experience for new players is also one of our priorities. We are dedicating a large amount of effort to this. The more new players join the game, the fresher our alliances become. So if you have suggestions or ideas regarding that, feel free to let us know. I just want to add something here at the very end of that, because it's not only new players, right? You also have to consider thinking about player retention from the existing player pool. Even though I understand the way that this last part is worded, it is more directed and focused at new players. I just wanted to throw that in as well. Will there be armor for the heroes in the future? Currently, there are no plans similar to the equipment system at the moment. We believe that the current system with artifacts and pets is already sufficient. I agree here. I love the fact that in this aspect, they are sticking to their guns and doubling down, which is that, at least at the moment, right? And again, you never want to close the door on things, right? So you kind of want to leave things open-ended, where there's no plans at the moment, right? And I agree with that. I don't think there's a need for armor. I think pets is basically that. Pets and artifacts, I think, in my opinion, are enough at the moment. And it's really just a matter of refining, improving those, pacing out the release of those, not just making it so they're more spender friendly, but allowing opportunities for free to play to get those as well. Same thing with new heroes. Like in Rock, they have what is it, Card King, where you can spend gems, there's opportunities. I think there should be other types of events where free to play has an opportunity to unlock all of the legendary heroes. And I'm not saying all at one time, but giving you the opportunity to maybe do one, right, that you can unlock. And again, pacing is important, but really keep in mind that that's one of the most important things. You never want to make it, you never want the free-to-play players to feel like they have absolutely no hope in being able to unlock specific heroes. Every hero should be unlockable by everyone. And it's just a matter of thinking creatively on how to do that. Okay. We already answered the armor thing. Number 17, will it be possible to change the gold heads of awakened heroes? In the future, we're definitely exploring options for recycling legendary tokens. This could involve introducing new events or implementing recycling systems to give players more choices on how to make the best use of them. This is fantastic. This is something they hinted at in one of the previous dev feedback columns, and I love that they're mentioning this again, because this is one of those things where, similar to how some people in Rock have so much VIP tokens because they're already at whatever it is, VIP18, right, whatever the number is now, they're thinking about ways to utilize basically a surplus of specific types of resources. I think that's a great thing, and I hope they do more of that. Number 18, are there any plans to add new researchers to the game? Currently, we don't have such plans. We believe that research now is effectively fulfilling their role in-game, but we will keep monitoring performance should any issues arise with it, and we'll make adjustments as needed. I will say this. I am okay with this answer. However, to the person who asked this question, I personally would be okay if they added some more research areas in certain branches, just because to me it feels like some of them are small, like there could be more. And I'm not saying it needs to be a library length's worth of additional research, but would I be okay to them adding a few more? I would. Am I also okay with where they're at now in the status quo? I totally am. I just wanted to give the two sides there. Number 19. Will there be building upgrades to level 30 in the future? There are no plans on that for the time being, but since we're always exploring options, we don't rule out the possibility of adding it in the future. I just want to say this. And I don't mean this in a bad way. I actually like the fact that they are not increasing building levels, and it's at 25. I say this because coming from Infinity Kingdom, for those of you that have played that, they did this thing, and other games have done this as well, in the genre, where every 6 months or something like that, give or take, they say, oh, we're going to add on 5 more levels. And then 6 months later, we're going to add on 5 more levels. And then maybe less than that, we'll add on 5 more levels. And here, playing IK, I think it was 25 or 30 you'd max out at. But now I think you can get to 45 or 50 or whatever it is. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I say that not, and maybe ridiculous is a strong word. I say that because you have to think about this. The more building levels you add, the more research tech you add, all that does is take that much longer for free-to-play to get to a point where they have finally finished maxing out buildings, maxing out research, and then they can reduce those outgoing resource streams to then focus on training troops. At the end of the day, once you've maxed out building, tech, pretty much the most important thing is really at that point training and healing. And that's really where you get to the end game. So the idea is, how can we get free to play to the end game as fast as possible, so that way more people can start enjoying the fights in a more immersive way. And to me, that's I should say an approach that I try to look at the game from. So for me, I like where they're at now. I don't think there's a need to do it. Again, not saying to never do it. I'm just saying at the moment, I don't think this should happen. And respectfully, I am a little bit against them adding more levels because I've seen how that plays out in another game. However, I would obviously still love to know what you guys think. If you've come from another game and maybe it was successful because they paced it out like once every year, they added 5 levels or something like that, and it was a lot longer to where it wasn't as impactful, right? Did you have a better experience or not? Let me know. Number 20, what are your future plans for small-scale PvE content involving around 10 players? We're actively working on developing smaller-scale PvE modes that will be introduced to players in the near future. Well, that's cool. Awesome. Okay, I'm actually pretty excited for that. I would love if they did more than that, like make it for 10, 20, 30, right? And then maybe allow for some of these things to, I don't want to say simulate real-time environments, but like if you're out there PvE hunting in the field with a group, right? Could there be a mode that maybe helps you work on coordination and structure, so that way you can be, I mean, again, even if you add modes that are not relevant to that to me is always a thought, right? So that'd be cool. Number 21, what ideas, and we're basically almost at the end here, we got 2 more questions. What ideas do you have for the abilities of the upcoming hero? Can you share any details about new events in the pipeline? Skogul and Goresh have just been introduced to the game. New mages are currently in the design phase. We're working on creating mages with completely different combat styles and skill mechanisms. One from the League of Order and another from the Spring Warden. Oh, cool. Okay, so that's some new information. Since it's still an early design stage and plans might change, we can only reveal this much for now and don't want to give or promise details to future heroes for now, but be sure that work on the heroes pipeline is always in progress. That's awesome. When will the new map for CoD be fixed? It has too many sandboxes. Do sandboxes mean choke points? We have received similar feedback before regarding the Season 2 map. Making changes to the map right now with Season 2 already live could affect player and alliance data. We're carefully looking into the map issue and we'll work on finding the best way to address it. That's all for the Cologne meet and greet Q&A. If you have any questions. So I'm just going to comment here. If sandboxes means choke points, I would rather just say choke points because I just think that term is a little bit more digestible and probably easier to understand by a larger populace than sandboxes, in my opinion. However, if that's not what it means, then what I'm going to say probably won't be relevant. But I'll just comment on this idea of choke points. First and foremost, bear in mind that do I think it would be cool for them to eventually release a map, or to maybe not release a map that has less choke points, but to have areas of the map that are a mix of just full open field and then sections of the map that are kind of not choke point heavy, but have hard and kind of soft choke points or thin and wide choke points. Yeah, I think that'd be great to kind of have a nice healthy mixture of being able to have really wide open field. Like, again, we saw this in the Season 1 map where I would cover some PvP and you just have this ginormous valley of an open field that people are fighting in. And so, yeah, I think trying to find a healthy balance of that is great. Or even if they want to do a map, maybe one season where it's just full open field war, and then another season where it's more kind of choke point control. But the other challenge that you have to look at with choke points is that how impactful are things like turrets, barricades, keeps going to factor into slowing the game down? In my view, and again, we're really, I think, going to get a better indication of that in the S2 Plus map for this season, is will there need to be, and these are questions to ask, will there need to be a limit on how many barricades each player can build, or how many barricades can be put up on a specific, on a one flag, or at the territory of one flag or each flag? Same thing with turrets. Same thing with keeps. Will there need to be limits so it doesn't stagnate and slow the game down incredibly? Because the thing is that, in my view, those are complementary pieces. The most enjoyable part of CoD should be the open field PvP. It shouldn't be dictated by on-field structures. Do I think that those can factor and can complement? But yes, it never should be something that is overtaking it. And I think with what we saw in Season 2, there were many moments, I will say that, there were many moments where people were just building an ungodforeseeable amount of barricades and combining that with keeps, but mainly the barricades, that really slowed down a lot. And in my view, those types of structures should be more strategically placed and not just placed everywhere, right? And I think that is the challenge, is how can we get more of a strategic placement focus instead of, oh, we'll just place them everywhere and then that's the approach, because that to me just doesn't seem as though that's going to be a long-term solution. I think that would be more of a long-term detriment, but I think we'll get a better idea when we're watching some Season 2 Plus PvP that I'll be trying to cover as much as possible. Let me know what you guys think there. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe you have a different view, and that's okay. I still would love to hear. With that in mind, that is going to do it for us. Let me know what you guys thought on this big one. Of course, I'm going to have timestamps, which again, I forgot to mention at the very beginning of the video, but as you start watching, I'm sure you'll see. Again, for anything that I talked about, I want to hear what you think. I actually really liked this, and I thought it gave us a greater insight into what the future of CoD looks like, but what are some of the current plans, adjustments to current features. So I really liked this. So kudos to them. Hats off. Asya and Leo. Well, if I see you guys at the next event, whenever that is going to be, I think someone said that they were planning something in the U.S. Someone mentioned that, and I think someone said that they might have mentioned New York or just somewhere in the U.S. I just want to say, if that's going to happen, I'll be there. I'm going to give you guys big hugs. We're going to take all the pics together, and it's going to be awesome. My excitement, I'm dying down. With that in mind, that is it. As always, let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. We will catch you later.